Shalom, everyone, and good evening from Connect in Galilee, in Israel, in the heart of the Jezreel Valley. I'm Amir Tsarfati, and this is our last Mideast update for 2024. And again, this is going to be one more Mideast update with Q&A at the very end. So start writing your questions already in the chat boxes on YouTube and Instagram, and also, of course, Facebook. My team is collecting the questions, and when the time comes, I'm going to get it onto my phone and answer them as well. But we cannot start without a prayer, so let's do that. Father, we thank you so much. You're in full control. Everything that happens in this world happens for a reason. Everything that is going on has been already foretold. You are God, there is no other, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, things that are not yet done. So we are thrilled to not only see the things that are happening, but to also understand them and know that you are comforting your people with the knowledge that the things are happening for a reason, for a season. We ask that you will bless this time of our reporting of news and connecting the dots when it comes to the Bible. We ask that you will bless Nadav and Shira in the control room, and that you will also take care of all the technical aspect of this broadcast. Also, we ask that the questions will be relevant and that the answers will be with all the information that is needed. We thank you again in Yeshua's name. Amen. Shalom, everyone. Again, this is Amir Tsarfati. I am live from Connect in Galilee. It's so good to see you all again. Believe it or not, we live in historic times. We see miracles upon miracles upon miracles here in this country. We fight in 7 different fronts, and there's not a single day that we don't experience firsthand the good hand of God. And this leads me to the first topic I want to talk about, and that is, over the past 7 days, 2 ballistic missiles and 2 drones were making their way from Iran all the way to Israel. Unfortunately, the ballistic missiles not only made it through the Israeli defense system, but managed to actually fall and hit. Take a look at a school and a playground. There's a public school that part of it literally collapsed because of the explosion of the ballistic missile. The warhead actually hit the target. The ground in a very densely populated area in Tel Aviv area, in a suburb called Ramat Gan. Right there, the rocket maybe disintegrated in the air, but the warhead managed to fall and explode. And ladies and gentlemen, miracle that I don't have words to explain it, because none of the residential buildings were damaged or destroyed besides a few broken glasses. What has been destroyed was a school, public school for elementary school. And take a look at the fact that the school that was damaged, and in parts of the videos we can see that the collapsed roof of that building. The good thing is that it happened in the middle of the night and no one was there. The same thing goes on with 2 days later, when another ballistic missile managed to penetrate the Israeli defense system, and it hit just a playground right in between houses and residential communities in Jaffa, south of Tel Aviv. So in both cases, the rockets made it. And then, of course, you can see another footage of drone that we managed to intercept in the skies of southern Israel. You see the helicopters, they are flying, and they managed to hit the drone right there. And another one just a couple hours ago, another drone. This is another footage that you can see of Israeli helicopters chasing a Yemeni drone over there in the skies of southern Israel. So, folks, what I'm trying to say is basically that we have one proxy of the Iranians that is still committed to continue and attacking Israel for no apparent reason. I mean, if you really think about it, Yemen is very far. Take a look at this map that we prepared for you. Take a look at Israel and look how far Yemen is. It's more than 1,100 miles away from Israel on the tip of the Red Sea over there. And they sent those ballistic missiles into the atmosphere and then all the way above the atmosphere and down to hit the single most populated area of Israel. And thankfully, only minor injuries from pieces of glass, or for the most part, people were injured themselves when they were running to the bomb shelter. I mean, in the middle of the night, you think the war is over, and suddenly the siren goes off, and people were terrified, and some of them fell and hurt themselves, and that's it, folks. It's unbelievable. Rockets that fell in the heart of the most populated area in Israel, and no one was killed. And thankfully, areas that were supposed to be loaded with children, they were with no one because it was in the wrong time of the day for victims to be there. So, folks, again, amazing miracles. And I've been watching and seeing those miracles throughout the last 14 months. And I have no words. I mean, he that keepeth Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. We see that. We live that. This verse is not just a verse in a page of the Bible. It is a reality for us, the Israelis here in the land. Now, a lot of you are probably asking, Amir, what's going on? Are you striking back in Yemen? Are you allowing that? Well, of course, Israel did strike at least 3 times over the last few months. In fact, Netanyahu just said a few minutes ago that our strike in Yemen were not the first and not the last. And take a look at what we did a few days ago in Sana'a, in the capital, and also in the Hodeidah port. We destroyed the tugboats, and we destroyed a power plant, and these are the skies of Sana'a a few days ago. The U.S. led coalition also conducted a few strikes as well, and we know that it took place yesterday. We also know, folks, that at least one American F-16 was shot accidentally by another U.S. warship. Thankfully, the 2 pilots were recovered. One of them was slightly injured. And the Yemenite Houthis immediately took responsibility as if they shot the fighter jet of the U.S. Air Force. Now, what's going on with those Houthis? What's going on with Yemen? Who are they? What do they want from us? So take a look at the map that shows you more or less what Yemen looks like and who controls what there, so you can understand what's going on there. So this is Yemen. It's a huge country. A lot of it is desert, but it's also a country with a lot of resources and gas and oil and other things. What you see here in the map is that the red part is the part that is controlled by the Houthis. The green one is controlled by the government. The government that is assisted by Saudi Arabia, and the brownish one is Al-Qaeda branch of Yemen. So Al-Qaeda is Sunni, and the Houthis are Shiites, Zaydis Shiites, and you can understand that the Sunni-Shiite battle is even there. Now, we prepared a little ID card for you to read about who these people are. And I want you to know that at any given moment later on, you can pause the video and read carefully everything that is there. But basically, as you can see, this organization, in fact, it started in the 1990s only in northern Yemen, and it was named after their leader, their founder, Hussein Badr Din al-Houthi. That's why they're called the Houthis. But the real name is Ansar Allah. And in the very beginning, it was just against the government of Yemen, accusing them for corruption and other things. But remember, these are Shiites against Sunnis, and since the government was Sunni, it was very easy for the Shiites to accuse them for corruption. But what I'm trying to say is that later on, when the Iranians noticed that there is an opportunity, they adopted Ansar Allah and started equipping them with rockets and with drones, and give them money and bring them experts to train them, experts that came directly from Iran, experts that came from Hezbollah. And the Houthis became basically the secret weapon of Iran to threaten the whole trade in that part of the world. Now, let me make it very clear that you understand. The Houthis will say and do what the Iranians cannot say or do. Take a look at the flag of the Houthis. The flag of the Houthis in Arabic says the following thing: Allah is the greatest, death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews, and victory to Islam. This is the official flag of the Houthis, of Ansar Allah. Now, this is exactly what the Iranians think, but they will never say it. This is exactly what the Americans want to do, the Iranians, This is how the Iranians, the Ayatollahs think, and they cannot say it. So they let their mad dogs, the Houthis, those, cavemen, they're just chewing on some narcotics all day long, and they're high 90% of the time. And they let them do the dirty job of just shooting everyone, shooting everywhere, doing whatever they cannot do. They're the cheap meat fodder, cannon fodder, basically, of the Iranians. The Iranians will always make sure to train people that are not Farsi, that are not Persians, that are not Iranians. And so take a look at what Israel did in our attacks. We understand that their main concern, of course, is the export and import, and we understand that this is exactly how Iran is equipping them. So what we did, not only did we attack targets in Al-Hudaydah, but also we attacked targets in Ras Isa, and these are the oil depots, as well as the cities and the ports. And then, of course, you have more and more and more attacks on key locations in the area that is controlled by the Houthis in Yemen. Now remember, Israel may have struck Yemen, 4, maybe 5 times. The coalition attacked over 50 times. But take a look at the route of the attack, because it's supposed to send you a message. Take a look at the map of the actual route of the attack from Israel all the way to Yemen. Take a look at the very long stretch from the Southern Air Force Base. Take a look all the way to Yemen. Why am I saying that? Because it is almost equivalent to the distance from the Israeli Southern Air Force bases to where? Take a look. Now I'll show you where the future is. Exactly. Iran. So remember, every time when we attack in Yemen, we are already practicing our soon-to-come attack on Iran. It's the same, technological and, of course, issues that you'll have to deal with in both cases: refueling in mid-air, trying to avoid radar systems and all that. And remember, Israel already took care of all the radar systems and the air defense systems in Syria and in Iraq and in Iran. So we already paved the way for our future strike in Iran, and I'll talk about it in just a few minutes. So we covered the Yemenites, we covered right now the Houthis, so now we understand more or less what's going on over there. I think it's time to move to Syria, because this is quite fascinating what's going on over there. Folks, I want you to understand that over the last few days, there is a whole pilgrimage of leaders from Arab worlds and from Europe and even from America to see Ahmad al-Shara'a or Abu Muhammad al-Julani, the leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, who, I'll talk about it in a few seconds. Look how he's dressed up, nice, with suits and with a tie. He's meeting with the Jordanian foreign minister. He's meeting with the Qataris, with the Saudis, and also with, here you can see even with the Turkish foreign minister, Hakan. They had coffee together. They even looked all the way down at Damascus from the mountains above Damascus. They had time. But I want to remind you who this man is, because a lot of you. So take a look. Let me explain right now. Okay, so Al-Julani goes back all the way to 2011 when the civil war began. When the civil war in Syria began, it was a popular uprising. It wasn't anything that has to do with Al-Qaeda or anything else. But when this whole chaos began, Al-Qaeda, with its leader, al-Zawahiri, they realized there was a chance here to make a move in Syria. So what they did, they basically told the leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq to go, and his name is Ibrahim Awad. They asked him to find someone in Syria to start preparing that area for Al-Qaeda. He found Al-Julani, Ahmad al-Shara. He found him, and shortly after that, already in 2012, they established Jabhat al-Nusra. That was the Al-Qaeda branch in Syria. And then, of course, what happened is that there was a split. The guy in charge of Al-Qaeda in Iraq didn't like the fact that the Syrians have their own thing. He wanted to be on top of everything. And the split caused that Ibrahim Awad to leave Al-Qaeda and establish ISIS. And he also changed his name to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. That's the guy. Take a look. If you remember, this is it. He's dressed differently, black. And he became the leader of the Islamic State of Syria, of Iraq and Syria. Remember that. And I want you to know that at that time, now Al-Julani is loyal to Al-Qaeda. But because he was loyal to Al-Qaeda and it was still affiliated with them, he was bombed by both the Americans, the Russians, the Turks, everybody. And so he asked permission to break the oath or the allegiance between him and Al-Qaeda so he can act independently. And this is when he started his own thing. He actually received permission from al-Zawahiri because al-Zawahiri said, I don't care if he's called Al-Qaeda or not, as long as he managed to topple Assad, that's what we want. And so in July of 2016, that is the split that took place, and Al-Julani is now declared as a leader, detached from Al-Qaeda, and finally they showed his face. Look at his face. That's him. Now, if that looks familiar to you, it's because they wanted him to look very much like Osama bin Laden. Same coat, same scarf, same head wrap, everything. And why is that? Because Al-Qaeda said, you may be leaving us, but we want you to not look like the one who left us not in good terms. We don't want you to look like al-Baghdadi. We don't want you to look like that guy that is dressed black. We want you to look like the mythological leader of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. So that guy that you see that is meeting with everyone today, dressed with a coat and with a tie and sits with world leaders, this guy that America within 10 minutes, America removed the bounty of his head, $10 million bounty. That's it, no longer. It's crazy. This guy in 2016, during the declaration of the separation from Al-Qaeda, when he was no longer with Al-Qaeda, I'm going to read to you what he said. First, our aims are establishing a religious regime in Syria, implementing Sharia law, unifying the rebels and overthrowing Assad and his supporters. He did that. Protecting jihad in Syria, addressing the daily needs of Muslims in Syria, that is the Sharia state, and ensuring security and stability for all citizens in Syria. Do you understand? Even after the separation from Al-Qaeda, Jolani and his followers still announced their intention to establish Sharia law. And on my Telegram channel, if you haven't downloaded it, you should. I posted there a few videos of what in Syria, under Sharia law, what they do to women. It is... Now, I'm not going to show it here because this video will immediately be banned by YouTube. But I want you to know that a very, very, very bad future is about to take place, to be upon women in Syria. Now, Ismail Assad, by the way, what you just saw, she filed divorce from Assad while both of them are in Moscow. But it's a different story. But I want you to know, folks, this Jolani is Al-Qaeda in his soul. He's a jihadist in his soul. He wants Sharia law in his declaration. And all that you see now with the tie and the suit and the new modern clothes and all the peace, honey dripping words from his mouth, it's all part of the deception that we've seen already from Hamas and others. Now, after October 7th, I don't believe any one of those people. And this is exactly why the Israeli government is doing what it needs to do in northern Israel on the Syrian border. And I want you to know that over there in Syria, our tanks are going in, and our troops are clearing every village and every town that is close to our borders. And trust me, I want you to know something. They've seen what happens to houses that are used by terrorists. In Lebanon and in Gaza, those houses are gone. So voluntarily, all of the people next to our border are taking all the weapons and all the ammunition and give it to us. They say, take it. We don't want it. Just don't touch our houses. We want to live here. We're tired of war. We don't want to fight you. We don't want anything. Just take the weapon, take the ammunition, take the RPGs, take the hand grenades, take the AK-47s, take the shoulder missiles, take the landmines, take all the explosives that we have. Take it. Just don't hurt us. Don't hurt our houses. Leave us, standing here, and we want to stay here. This is what's going on in Syria. And while this one is going on in Syria, even in Lebanon, Israel is still operating. We still have 30 more days until we need to pull out of southern Lebanon. And every single day, we demolish more houses where we find more infrastructure of terrorism. We destroy more tunnels and more headquarters, and we find more and more and more things. This Hezbollah is so sick that it used almost every house in southern Lebanon as a hub to hide or people or weapons and to operate from. So it has to be clearly stated that the deterrence is working. And now in Syria, you see they don't want anything to do with hurting Israel. Jolani said we have no intention to fight Israel. Even today, there are reports from southern Syria where they say we already talked to the Israeli government that we have no intention to fight with Israel. We want just to rebuild Syria. Do I believe them? No. I don't believe a single Muslim that lives around me because of, just saying, I want peace with Israel. Now, some of them may not want to destroy Israel, but it's enough for the others who do want for me to say, I don't trust anyone. I do what I need to do in order to clean the area So a threat like October 7th will not rise up again. That's it. The days where Israel was innocently believing its neighbors and their, fake intentions, those days are over. We don't trust anyone. And the days that Israel left people who hurt Israel unhurt and unattended are over. Every one of the militias, of the proxies, of the terror organizations, every leader, all of them are going to pay the price, because that's the only language the Middle East understands. The only one. Now, we talked about Yemen and we talked about Syria. Let's talk about Turkey for a few seconds. And it's important that you understand one of the biggest winners in this whole fall of the Assad regime is, of course, Turkey. But don't fall into this whole Turkey is great and it's an empire. Let me tell you something, folks, about Turkey, okay, so you understand. And I posted it also on Telegram. They act like the Ottoman Empire. We're big, we're big, we're big. And look what they say. Look what the partner of Erdogan just said yesterday. If Damascus has been conquered, the conquest of Jerusalem is also close. This is the leader of the Nationalist Movement Party in Turkey, who is a member of the coalition of Erdogan. Now, why am I saying all of this? They're talking and talking and talking, but do you know what? Let me tell you something. The lira, the Turkish lira, its devaluation is just unbelievable. It's 35 liras to $1. Within 1 year, it lost 20% of its value, and within 5 years, it lost 500% of its value. The interest rate in Turkey is 50%. The inflation is 47%. Do you understand? I guess the Sultan needs a war in order to revive its economy. Take a look at these headlines on all the news outlets that you can clearly see describing what's going on in Turkey. Erdogan gave everyone cheap loans, and now it's time to pay them. And the payback is just not going well. And so it's default, and the money that Erdogan borrowed is now much more than he can pay back. And there comes the inflation, then comes the lack of foreign currency in his banks, and there comes the high interest, and of course, you see devaluation of it. So what are you going to do? Start a war. Just show that you are a great military, and, war will always fix your problems, wouldn't it? So I'm just telling you, it's not like Turkey is such a strong country right now. It has a very strong military, don't get me wrong, but its economy is in shambles right now. That's a very interesting point that you need to remember. Now, let's talk about Iran. It's a very important thing, folks, and probably it's almost at the heart of our Mideast update right now. First of all, I want you to know that we haven't heard the last word from the Iranians. Right now, as we speak, the Iranians are conducting consultations regarding an imminent strike on Israel, what they call True Promise. They already had True Promise 1, True Promise 2, now they want number 3. The official reason is we want to retaliate on Israel's latest attack. But in reality, they are frustrated. Look, they cannot even fly above Syria. The Syrians banned their all Iranian planes. The Iranian planes are going all the way up to Turkey and then down towards Beirut. So it's quite interesting. They lost their assets where they invested billions and billions and billions of dollars. But I want you also to know, folks, the Iranians understand that not only that they lost assets outside, but they also understand that they're losing the power inside. So the deputy commander of the Revolutionary Guard intelligence organization, look what he said. 65 to 68% of the Iranian people think that Iran must respond with an attack on Israel, even if it leads to war, and we are preparing to do so. That's what he said. They understand what it takes. Look at how people are laughing at the Iranian axis of evil, that crescent, the Shiite crescent in a cartoon, how it's being shattered to pieces. The entire Arab Sunni world is laughing at Iran right now. Iran wants to restore its deterrence, its image. Iran wants to somehow gain access back in Syria and back in Lebanon. Iran wants to maintain Hezbollah's remaining power. Make no mistake. Don't fall into pride and arrogance when it comes to Hezbollah. Hezbollah may have lost thousands of people, but they only lost 10% of their manpower. 10,000 Hezbollah terrorists may have died, but they have 100,000. And we also believe that Hezbollah somehow is still having some long-range or medium-range ballistic missiles it supports to become actively used when Israel goes after the nuclear program of Iran. So Iran is still banking on the remaining power of Hezbollah to do something. So folks, you need to understand the Iranians are not only not abandoning their nuclear program, it's the only thing they think about right now. They lost everything else. What else can they do to become or to remain power with deterrence and some respect? They look at Pakistan, they look at India, they look at North Korea, they look at countries with nuclear weapons, they say, we want also. And so if we have it, nobody would touch us. So right now, as we speak, there are consultations in the highest places. Look at what the head of the Mossad, Dadi Barnea, said the other day. He basically said, and all of these are from my Telegram channel, so I highly recommend to follow it. He said that instead of going after the Houthis, whenever the Houthis attack, we need to go straight to Iran. Straight to Iran. And again, hit the head of the snake. Folks, let me explain. In the last 24 hours, in the highest places in Israel, we are seriously considering a strike. Now, we call it preemptive strike, so the Iranians will not have their strike. The Iranians call theirs preemptive strike because they think Israel is about to strike them, and so every side calls it preemptive strike, but in reality, we're waiting to see who's going to blink first. And in reality, everything Israel did in Iran so far, and we did it twice so far, everything we did, and by the way, they attacked us twice, in April and in October. In the middle of, the first one was at 3 a.m., the second one was at 8 p.m. We're talking about hundreds of ballistic missiles that were fired from Iran towards Israel. And if you remember that. But what I'm trying to say, folks, is that Israel is going to seize the moment. And Basimuti, what I'm trying to say, folks, is that over the last 24 hours, in the highest places in Israel, and over there in Tehran as well, they know exactly what we're talking about. The deliberation and the consultation and the talks are about an imminent strike. And so, as I said before, it's now the question of who strikes first. It's not if, it's when and who does it first. And I want to tell you, folks, there's a very good chance that we will have to do it before January 20th. And that's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be pretty, because you and I know that we prefer to do it with the blessing of the U.S. administration and even the assistance of the U.S. administration, because attacking the nuclear sites of Iran is much more difficult than destroying air defense systems and radar systems. But we need to. We don't have a choice. They are very much so almost there. And they know exactly what we're planning, so they might even try to strike first. So stay tuned, because things are going to escalate much sooner than you think. And I don't think the Middle East can handle this type of suspense until January 20th, when Iran is the laughing, poster in the Middle East right now. They cannot bear that shame and the anger and the frustration of all those generals there. Every day, one says, more nasty things than the one before, the day before also. So watch it very carefully, because things are going to escalate very, very quickly in the next few days. Let's talk about Gaza, folks. There's a lot of talks about a hostage deal. To be honest with you, it's not substantiated, because Hamas is not giving us the names. Hamas is busy with propaganda and with psychological warfare. So every Saturday, they release some stupid video or some cartoon that they make. This is the latest cartoon of Benjamin Netanyahu's son enjoying the sunny Florida, whereas our hostages are in tunnels in Gaza. Now, why am I saying all of this? I'm saying all of this because you need to understand that of the up to 40 or maybe 40-something living hostages, they're not all in the hands of Hamas, and they're not all in tunnels. They're held by families, by organizations, by families in homes, in houses. Some are under the ground, some are above the ground, but the Gazans are still holding our hostages, and it doesn't matter how much they suffer, they will never let them go. They're not that innocent, not at all. If they want an end to this war, give us our hostages back and surrender. They don't want to. They don't want to. So I'm not sure who is innocent over there, but I will tell you, if you look at the map of Gaza, Israel continues to operate. We have already paved asphalt roads on the corridor, the Philadelphia corridor, the Netzarim corridor. We have permanent military bases over there in everything that you see in the purple color. And the Israeli military is deep there, and it's shooting its roots there with antennas and roads and cameras. We're not going anywhere. And the Gaza part, that is humanitarian zone where most of them live right now, is going to shrink more and more and more, because, as I said last week, they continue to shoot. And when they shoot, we ask them to evacuate. We destroy the place where they shot from. And then, of course, they shoot again from another place. We evacuate them. They shoot again and again and again and again and again. They don't want to give up. And as long as it happens, and as long as they continue to shoot, and as long as they continue to hold our hostages, the war will never end. And that's what Netanyahu is telling the whole world, and to Hamas, and to our stupid opposition, even in our own parliament. There will be no end to the war in Gaza until Hamas is surrendering and the hostages are back in our hands. If you suggest that there can be any different end, you are empowering Hamas. You're giving them the hope to stay in power and to keep holding the hostages. They need to know that they lost Hezbollah, they lost Iran, they lost, even, by the way, I don't know if you know that, but I don't think I shared with you, but a senior pro-Iranian militia official in Iraq even told the Lebanese newspaper Al-Akhbar that it was decided to stop attacks against Israel. So even the militias in Iraq went under the ground and they decided, okay, we stopped the attack on Israel. So Hamas lost Hezbollah, the militias in Iraq, the Syria, the Iranians, everything. Now they're cornered. That's the time to hit them hard. That's the time to not allow them any ounce of hope that they can still stay in power. And of course, the humanitarian aid gives them hope because they steal it and then they sell it in exuberated prices. That's why we're very encouraged to hear from President Trump, as you can see, something about that thing about the humanitarian. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. Reports that Trump sent a message to Israel: I will not insist on humanitarian aid as Biden did. Now, remember, it's not like we want to starve people, but the humanitarian aid eventually is not arriving in the right places. It sustains Hamas. And as long as Hamas is there, no one will ever want to go in and take control of Gaza instead of Hamas because they will be killed by Hamas. So instead of stopping the aid, letting and drying it, and letting us go in and destroy Hamas, the world, led by Biden, is insisting that we give them more aid and more aid and more aid. And remember, every truck that you get into Gaza is another day for Hamas to stay in power. Every truck, it's not, you see, it's not that the people enjoy it. You don't understand. People, I don't get it. What are you doing? Are you out of your mind to allow food and supply to a terrorist organization that you know that they're taking over the trucks and they're stealing everything? First, they stockpile everything for themselves, and then they don't even give it to their own people. Everything the countries are giving for free, Hamas is selling. So they can not only have their supply, but they can have money. And with the money, they recruit more people from among those that have nothing to lose anyway. That's how stupid this current U.S. administration is. And that's why Trump intends to put an end to it. Enough is enough. Now, I can tell you for sure that the hostages are not back and Hamas is still in power and the war is still going on because of the U.S. administration and its stupid insisting on us sending more and more and more and more and more and more humanitarian aid. That's it. And by the way, speaking of President Trump, the whole world is now getting under a lot of pressure right now. I mean, take a look at what he just tweeted this morning about Panama. This is Trump's renaming the Panama Canal to the United States Canal. Now, why is that? Because, you know, there's three elements that are afraid of Trump. The evil axis of evil, the evil people, the users, and the abusers. Evil, users, and abusers. Europe is afraid because he's asking them to pay what they need to pay for the expenses of NATO. He told them 5% of your GDP should go to cover your part in NATO, and they're afraid. He's asking the countries around America, don't take advantage of our borders and don't use and abuse us there. And of course, countries like Panama, where the canal was giving to them for free, not to then charge arms and legs for every American ship that is going through it. Do it for others maybe, or at least lower the rates. Trump is about to bring back the not just deterrence, but the dignity of this nation that has been lost for such a long time. And with that, I'm telling you, all the scumbags are now running hysterically. They're what are we going to do? Someone is there speaking words with sense, words with wisdom, They're not used to it. They're used to stupid people who are taking money from under the table and they're just, speaking senselessly about things they don't even understand. They don't know the Middle East. They don't know how it works with Russia. They don't know how it works with borders controls they don't. Unbelievable. And they don't only push for immigration into America, they push for immigration into Europe. And every year Europe has Merry Christmas, and it's not exactly a merry one. And they always try to cover up. They will never tell you who is the terrorist that performed the terrorist activity in a Christmas market like the one in Magdeburg. They immediately said, oh, he was anti-Islam. Are you kidding me? The guy was praising Hamas. That's why it's interesting how the Islamist terrorist that attacks, take a look at what Visegrad said. Where is it that you have no terrorist no terrorist attacks in any Christmas market in the last decade? Not in Poland, not in Hungary, not in Slovakia, not in Czechia. Why? Because they did not take uncontrollable amount of jihadists into their territory. That's exactly the case. And what happens in Germany every year, if it's in Berlin or in Magdeburg this time, and they will always hide the real intention. Look at this headline in the newspaper. They are checking what the motives were. There's a newspaper ad. Take a look. Beiton. Here. German officials are trying to understand the motives of the Christmas market attack. What could be the motives if a Muslim drives into a Christmas market for Christians where Christians go on a Christian holiday? Have I lost something? I mean, what's going on here? And they all know the truth. And they know the truth, but they hide it from the people, but the people are no longer there. And that's exactly why in the newest polls in Germany, the leading candidate for chancellor, and you can see it on my latest telegram, on my latest telegram, I give there a list of all the candidates, and here it is. Where is it? Where I showed here. So there is Olaf Scholz, 15%, Friedrich Merz, 20%, Robert Habeck, 14%, and Alice Weidel. She's from the AfD, the Alternative für Deutschland, Alternative for Germany. They're considered extreme right-wing, okay, because they're anti-immigration. And she's 24%. Why? Why do you think it happens? Because you have abandoned your citizens. And you let those people attack them every year, the same time of the year, in the same places, and they're not safe anymore. So they are saying enough is enough. You know, the economy in Germany is in shambles. The economy in France is in shambles. The political stability is not even there. Why do you think? Why? Europe is so much in trouble right now. Why? Because it has been destabilized by progressive liberal governments that did not understand the ramification of what they are doing in decisions of uncontrolled immigration from Muslim countries with tons of jihadists that infiltrated in. Unbelievable. So, Christmas should be merry, and I really want to pray and hope that we all have Merry Christmas. And by the way, I know Christmas is not in the Bible. There's no verse that says we should celebrate Christmas. But Hanukkah is not in the Bible as a holiday that we must, keep. Purim is not in the Bible. But that feast of dedication was already mentioned in the New Testament, and Jesus came to Jerusalem during that feast, and Jesus used that to say, I am the light of the world. The Feast of Lights, Feast of Dedication. So sometimes there are traditional holidays. Sometimes for some people it's just tradition, but it's the right time for us to claim who the right reason for it is all about and what the right reason. And He is the reason for the season. So instead of fighting it, use it and give the people the reason for the season. And now it's time to answer your questions. So I'm going to see what my team has already collected. Okay, so here it is. Amir. Daniel wrote, what will it take for Israel to be without walls of Ezekiel 38? What will it take for Israel to feel safe again? The removal of its enemies. I can tell you that if we're going to have peace with Lebanon, and if we're going to make sure that Syria is completely demilitarized where we are, and if there is no Hamas and there is no Islamic Jihad, well, this is it. And we're on the way to get there. Stan is asking, will Turkey invade the Kurds? Absolutely. Stan, let me tell you something. That look at my Telegram channel. Up there, you can scan and download it. I just reported the Turks are amassing forces near Kobani. They are planning an invasion. They hate the Kurds more than anyone else, and they want to put an end to the Kurdish presence in northern Syria. Sasilarto is asking, is there any progress or update regarding the normalization between Indonesia and Israel? By the name, I guess you are Indonesians. I believe that once Trump is in office and Abraham Accords will be renewed with more participants, I believe that in the next batch will be Saudi Arabia, Indonesia as well. So it's just a matter of 2-3 months, according to what I estimate. Chino is asking, do you think that we are going to get raptured in 2025? Chino, we can be raptured in 2 seconds. So, I mean, I hope we will be raptured, but if it's not going to happen, I will continue to hope, because that's exactly how Paul lived. He said, if you remember, that the dead in Christ will rise, and we that are alive and well will be caught up together with them in the cloud to meet the Lord in the air. So my point is, we need to live with that hope, the blessed hope, and we need to eagerly wait for that to happen, for Him to come in the clouds to take us. Kate is asking, is the Isaiah 17 prophecy actually about the Assyrian destruction of Damascus or current damage? Thank you for asking that. Isaiah 17 is not yet fulfilled. Assyrians did not cause Damascus to be uninhabited. The proof is it is inhabited. The proof is it is still here standing. And the prophecy is not fulfilled yet. The prophecy, you see, many times in Bible prophecy, there's dual meanings. There is, just like Antiochus Epiphanes was a type of the Antichrist, in many ways, he was, having things that in a smaller scale would be performed later on by the Antichrist. But it was just a prototype. It was just a forerunner. It was just a type. So whether the Assyrians destroyed Damascus, then it was a I would say a way to show that Damascus in the future will be destroyed. But the destruction of Damascus by the Assyrians has never been so total, and it has not been to the point that it is uninhabitable. And you can bet that this is what's going to happen according to Isaiah 17, and it falls under the definition of what Isaiah 46 says, I'm God, there is no one like me, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, things that are not yet done. Michael is asking, what is Israel going to do with all its POWs? It seems Israel is building a hostile army within itself. No, we're going to try them and hopefully execute them. We're not building any army. We're not going to keep them in prison for too long. Once the war is over and there will be, there will be military courts that will try all of them. And the Israeli parliament is about to pass a legislation for death penalty to all of those terrorists that were part of this war. So I'm not, I'm not concerned. They all need to be executed. We're not going to give them food and water and bed and maybe, some sort of academic studies. Sinwar had his degree in the university paid by Israeli taxpayers. We even took care of his cancer paid by the Israeli taxpayers. Kim is asking, who do you expect the laser defense, when the laser defense system to come online? I believe that in the next 4 or 5 months it will be operational, and it's good news. Chad, should Israel keep the Gaza Strip for themselves, allowing the Palestinians to return, but policing it with Israeli forces building back their cities? Look, Israel has made it very clear. There are places in Gaza we will never leave. We will not leave the Philadelphia corridor, so weapons will not continue flowing. And we will not leave the Netzarim corridor, the security parameter around the Gaza Strip, because we want to make sure that people that goes to northern Gaza are not terrorists. And we want to make sure that everything around Gaza, there is a territory that is not allowed to anyone to even approach. So the people of Israel will not have another October 7th. So if they want to stay under these conditions, you're welcome. If not, you're welcome to move to another place. You brought it upon yourself. You started this war. You butchered us. You massacred us. You raped us. You burned our kids alive. Now it's payback time. It's not even a revenge. We're trying to make sure it's not going to happen again. That's all. Joy, will Israel permanently occupy the Mount Hermon area of Syria? Well, Israel is definitely going to make sure that Syria will not pose a threat on Israel. And I believe it makes sense to hold the highest point of Mount Hermon. And I believe that it's also important to put their radar system that will cover everything all over Syria. When will the Jews finally have all the land that was promised to them by God during the Exodus? One day, in millennial kingdom, we'll have everything. And until then, as we can see, the land size is always proportionate to the spiritual state of the people. Why are Jews accused of colonization, occupation, but Muslims are not even though they are rapidly expanded and demanded the conquest people convert to Islam? Okay, why? Because the world loves to choose the lie over the truth. The world prefers darkness over light. The world prefers to always turn against the Jews. Look, the funny thing is, you look at the map and the dot that Israel is on the map, in all the Arab world all around, Islam was not there before the 8th century. So who is expanding and who is occupying and colonizing who exactly? Did you know that, for example, Morocco was it had a Christian community there before Islam even came to power? So, Northern Africa, all the Arabian Peninsula, Islam is the one that took over, and one by one took over countries, all the way, by the way, to Spain. They're not called colonizers. That religion is fairly new. Our excavations shows that we go back to 3,500 years. We go back. We have remains from the first temple period. We have remains from the Abrahamic city gate in Dan. We have remains that we are here long before any of the existing religions were there. So my point is, you can either fall into the lie of the world that is trying to incite you and turn you against the Jewish people, or you can just use your brains, read books, educate yourself. And remember, it's a spiritual blindness and it's a demonic presence that wants to blind people and turn the nations against Israel. That's what it was all about. That's what Satan is all about. So, I guess the only way to stick to the truth is to know the truth first, because only the truth will set you free. And to know the truth is to know who Israel is, who chose Israel, what for, when, how, and to also know the plan of God for Israel, which is not to be destroyed and certainly not to be consumed. I am God, I do not change, he says. Therefore, you are not consumed, O Jacob. That's it. And you can choose to fight, you can choose to resist, you can choose to believe the lie, but you will eventually have to pay the price for it. And eventually you have to live the consequences thereof. That's it. Folks, this is it. I'm going to conclude with the Aaronic blessing upon you all. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. If there is something crucial, I will have breaking news on my phone and we will upload it immediately for you. Stay tuned. It's going to be very stormy end of the year in the Middle East, but I will keep you updated. But this is the last Mideast update from Connect for this year, for 2024. We're moving forward in the next year to adjust this Mideast update to include you guys asking more questions. And we want to bring the community of believers from all over the world to ask the questions and get the answers on each and every one of the topics. So we don't just report things, but we also answer questions and educate where you actually have the need. So let me conclude with the Aaronic blessing. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance towards you and give you his shalom, his peace. The peace that surpasses all understanding, that can only come from the Prince of Peace. He is also the Lord of peace, and he can give you peace now and forever, here and everywhere. His name is Yeshua, and in his name we pray. Amen. Amen. Download Telegram. Share this Mideast update with as many as you can. Thank you for everything. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll be in touch with Q&As and other things. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Hanukkah as well and even more. Thank you. Shalom and God bless you from rainy Galilee. Thank you. Bye-bye.